Let's look at one additional operator that we can use to change the contents of a list. We've seen how to add items and also how to delete items from the list. Now let's look at how to edit or modify a value that's currently stored in the list. So suppose we don't want to change the number of items, we don't want to add or remove anything, we just want to update the contents of one of the boxes in the list. In order to do this, we need to access the item and then assign that position or memory location a new value. So first, let's look at a little example in memory. Suppose we have our quiz score list and it currently stores 10183859. So we have 7 items within the list. And suppose that we accidentally recorded the wrong value for quiz 2, and now we want to update the value for that particular location within the list. We can do that with these Python instructions. We could ask the user, hey, enter the corrected quiz score value for quiz number 2. And then remember, quiz number 2 is the one that's at index 1. So to update the value stored in index 1, we give the identifier for the list, that's quiz score list. And then in square brackets, we include the index that we want to access. We want to access the index 1. And then we want to assign that position, the contents of that box, our corrected grade, whatever the user typed in above. And after we enter that, maybe we want to print it out so that we can see the updated list. Let's try that out in Python. I still have my quiz score list here. In my version, I just have 10187885, 1018. So I have 7 instead of a 3, and then there's an extra 9 at the end. Super. And I want to ask the user to enter a corrected quiz score grade. I'm going to put that here. Corrected grade equals int input. Please enter the updated value for quiz 2. And now I don't want to append that to the list. Instead, I want to say quiz score list at position 1. That will give me the ability to change the second quiz score, and I want to make that equal to corrected grade. So what we're hoping to do is replace this value 1 within our list with whatever the user types in at the keyboard. Let's run that to see how it works. So I'm starting out with that list, 10188359. And now it asks me to enter a new updated value for quiz number 2. So let's say instead of a 1, I actually got a 10. So I'll type in the 10, and now you can see that the list has been updated. Now it includes the 10 at position 1 instead of the value 1. As we wrap up this video series, let's review what we've learned. First, when Python expresses the position of an item in a list, it uses what index to refer to the first item's position? What index is always the first one? Well, it's 0. In your notes, you'll see a list of the 4 operations that we've talked about today in a table. See if you can fill in the general syntax for these 4 operations and also describe what each does in your own words. After you've written them down, come back to check your answers. So in order to append something to a list, you use the .append operation and include the value that you want to add in parentheses. And that always adds the value to the right-hand side of the list, or you can think of it as the end of the list. In contrast, the insert operation is useful if you want to add a new value at a specific position. So you want to control where that new data is placed. The delete operation allows you to remove a value that's stored in a particular position. So it deletes that value at the indicated position and then scoots everything that's over to the right-hand side of the list a little bit over to the left to fill in the hole. And finally, we learned about how to modify a list, how to replace the value at a particular position with a new value. We use the square brackets notation to do that. That always replaces the value at index position with the new indicated value. At this point, you should understand how to access an individual value in a list and know how to use the append, insert, remove, and modify operations with a list.